What is shaking, everybody? It is Friday, getting ready for some college football, some pro football, and you know how we like to do it. I like to have Dr. Bob on of drbobsports.com to break down some college. We'll break down the Niner game. I will remind you guys that there's a lot of free stuff on the website. There's a lot of really good stuff. They'll have a lot of leans out there, which have been profitable over the years. And of course, he has his packages that you can sign up for as well. But even if you don't, you know, you can learn more about college football just by going on the site and reading about some of the write-ups for the games. I do it all the time. Bob, what's going on?
Doing all right. Last week I took a little bit of a break from actually writing up the games, but I put predicted scores on all of them. But this week I have a little bit more time, so there should be by tomorrow morning I should have all the games up.
Oh, I know you said weeks 2 and 3 are the busiest weeks for you. How come those are the busiest weeks?
Well, it's the busiest because I have ratings on all the teams, component ratings, running, passing, defense against the run, defense against the pass, special teams, interception rates, etc. before the season starts. And after week 1, it's not that bad because I just look at what happened in the game compared to what I had predicted for that game, and I make slight adjustments to each team's component ratings. But in week 2, after week 2, it's harder because it's not only, well, how did you do against the team you just played in week 2, but it's also like, well, how'd the team you play in week 1, how'd they do in week 2 relative to what was expected? Because it could just be a case like, oh, you barely beat Old Dominion. Oh, Old Dominion's pretty good. They just beat Virginia Tech. You know, I mean, so you have to, it's like a tree that just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger the more weeks you go. So doing that by hand is really hard in week 3. This week's not as bad because I have most teams have played 3 games, and now the in-season math model works a little bit. It really kicks in next week, but I've got enough that I can run it and kind of get some guidance there and combine that with my preseason ratings. And it's not as bad this week, but week 3 is brutal as far as the workload.
Well, we always appreciate you joining us. And again, drbobsports.com. Let's get into some of the bigger games this weekend. Let's start off with Auburn Tigers heading to Oklahoma. Like, I think Oklahoma is pretty good this year. I think their defense is much better. Their defense was pretty good last year. It's just their offense wasn't that good, so not a lot of people paid attention to it. But their defense is really good this year. They got some receivers back. Mateer, he looks like he's playing Pop Warner out there sometimes. Like, hey, you throw it, you run it, you keep it, you just do everything. And he's been able to do quite a bit. Auburn, Jackson Arnold, their quarterback, was the quarterback at Oklahoma before he transferred to Auburn. So he's going back home. And from what I've seen, even the Auburn game, Bob, he's very similar to what he was last year. Still doesn't throw it that well. He's able to run it. He was always able to use his legs. The problem is it's hard to run against Oklahoma. So 7 seems like a lot, but I certainly wouldn't be on the Tigers side. How do you see this one?
Yeah, I mean, last year people sort of gave Jackson Arnold, he was a 5-star recruit, and he was the disaster at Oklahoma. They sort of gave him a pass and said, well, we had wide receiver injuries, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, Arnold averaged 3.8 yards on 260 pass plays against FBS teams last season. Those teams would allow 5.6 yards per pass play to an average quarterback. So at minus 1.8 yards per pass play rating, that would put Arnold in between Kennesaw State and Kent State in my pass ratings last season. I'm pretty sure Oklahoma's backup receivers are better than Kennesaw State and Kent State starting receivers. So you can't just say, oh, they had receiver injuries at Oklahoma. Oklahoma goes pretty deep at the receiving corps. And we're kind of seeing that it was probably more Jackson Arnold's fault than receiver injuries last year at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
He's been better this season, but he's averaged 6.2 yards per pass play. But the 3 teams he's faced this year at Auburn would allow 7.3 yards per pass play to an average quarterback. He's still been below average. And the problem that Arnold has is he can't connect downfield. Auburn's got these speedy receivers, and he just can't hit them, or he's reluctant to throw that pass. He's only averaged 10.4 yards per completion. That's just barely over his 10.1 yards per completion over his career. So he's still reluctant to throw the ball downfield or doesn't connect downfield. Whatever the case is, they are letting him run more, and he has shown he can run. But Oklahoma's just going to stack the box. They don't let anybody run on them anyway. Yeah. They didn't let. They have Michigan earlier this year. They didn't let.
Yeah, they had that one big run, and that was it. Pretty much.
Yeah, that was it. So other than that, yeah, and Auburn might pop a big run. They've got a lot of misdirection kind of stuff going on with this offense. and they might get their big run. It could be on a jet sweep or something like that, or Arnold might bust one, but it's not a consistent way to move the ball. If they're not afraid of you throwing the ball more than 5 yards down the field, I just think Oklahoma's defense is going to smother Auburn's offense. Like Auburn might get a big play or two on the run game, but that's about it. As far as Auburn's offense, I don't expect a lot. Oklahoma, Mateer hasn't actually been as good as he was last year at Washington State, but they've still been good. But Auburn, a good defense. So I think it's not going to be Oklahoma running up and down the field. I think Oklahoma is going to be fairly held in check. I'm seeing something like a 26-17 Oklahoma game here.
Sounds about right. All right, let's go to another 5-star. And I love all these, recruiting outlets. Like the star rating to me is just, it's a big whatever. Like 5-star. I'll give you another example. 5-star, the great DJ Lagway of Florida was a 5-star coming out of high school. And I was at that game last week. I went to the LSU Florida game. That was the phoniest 290 yards passing I'd ever seen in my life. It was a horrible performance. Some of the throws he made in that game, a Pop Warner player wouldn't make those throws. And trust me, I tried to sneak in Florida. I was like, just give me a field goal at the end of the game. We'll be good. Nah, I can't do it. Their defense is good. Like Florida's defense has played well. I think, because I'm not sure how good LSU's offense is because they've played against Clemson and Florida, and they haven't looked good against either one. Anyway, I'm getting along the tree here. But you tell me if this is apples to apples. Florida plays Southern Florida or South Florida and squeaks by, gets outgained in that game. Miami plays South Florida and blasts South Florida. I mean, it was an easy win for them, 530 yards to 310 or 320, whatever it was. And this one comes in at the same price basically as the LSU game. I actually think Miami might be better than LSU, and Florida might be worse than we thought they were. I know this is a game you like. Talk about what side you like and why you liked them.
Yeah, well, Florida lost to USF. They lost to South Florida.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Florida's offense is struggling. First of all, they're not running the ball. They've only averaged 3.6 yards per running play against the two FBS teams they faced. And Lagway has been a problem. Last year, he had two really good outside receivers in Shamar Dike and Elijah Badger. Those two combined for over 1,400 receiving yards and 11.5 yards a target against FBS teams. The rest of the receiving core last year only averaged 5.6 yards per target against FBS teams. This year, through 3 games, the wide receiver group has only averaged 6.9 yards per target, and that includes a blowout win over LIU. So they haven't replaced DK or Badger at all, and Lagway's gone from averaging 15 yards per completion last year by just throwing the ball up and letting those guys get it to averaging 8.9 yards per completion. Can't find anyone to get open down the field.
Yeah.
They thought that who was it this year that they thought was going to be the guy to take the place? Eugene. Now I'm forgetting his name.
Mike Hilliard?
No, the guy for Florida. Wilson. They thought he was going to be the guy, but he's been terrible. So Lagway's just not finding anybody open, or he's not connecting downfield. But the receiver group has been the big problem. It's been a big drop off in receiver talent without those top 2 guys from last year. Now they face Miami, who's got a good defense. They don't allow the run. Miami's only allowed 3.5 yards per run play to Notre Dame and South Florida, and those teams are better than average running the ball. And their pass defense is good. So I don't see where Florida's going to get their offense. I think their offense is going to continue to struggle. And on the other side of the ball, you mentioned Florida does have a good defense. They gave up 6.4 yards per play to South Florida and LSU. That's actually not that bad relative to to who they faced. It's not as good as expected, but I still rate them, better than average defensively. Miami's offense is elite again. I mean, they lose the number 1 NFL draft pick and they plug in Carson Beck, who 2 years ago was one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Last year they struggled because Georgia just didn't have great receivers last year. So Beck's been great, averaging 8.8 yards per pass play against Notre Dame and South Florida. He's been fantastic. They run the ball better than average. Florida's got a good defense, but Miami's offense is so much better than Florida's defense. I see this as a blowout. I just, not a blowout, but I think it's a comfortable double-digit win for Miami. And I bet this game. I made Miami a best bet at -7.5. Went up to 9. It's back down to 7.5. I don't think it's going to get to 7. Maybe you can wait to see, but I don't think so. But it's a good bet up to 9.5 or even -10.
All right, let's go Wolverines and Cornhuskers. I have no idea what the Cornhuskers are because they haven't played anybody. I know Raiola thinks he's Patrick Mahomes, which is kind of a weird topic unto itself. But from the number to the way he jumps, and anyway, who are these guys? Like, who is Nebraska? I know they're getting 1.5 now. It was up to 2.5. Maybe you can get 2, but Michigan land 2 in Nebraska. What do you see here?
Yeah, this is a funny one because Raiola was a freshman last year. I thought he did a really good job as a true freshman.
I agree.
He put up pretty good numbers. And I expected, Matt Rule has been at Temple and he's been at Baylor before he went to the NFL. In the third season, both of those teams were about 10 points better than they were in the second season under Matt Rule. I didn't expect Nebraska to be 10 points better this year than they were last year, but I expected some improvement. Now, it's hard to say. I mean, beating up on Akron and Houston Christian the last 2 weeks doesn't really impress me because any Big Ten team could do that. And they struggled against Cincinnati. And they only beat Cincinnati by 3 on a neutral field. I think Cincinnati's a pretty good team, but I wasn't as impressed by Nebraska as I thought I might be. And I actually leaned with Cincinnati in that game, so I wasn't totally surprised, but I expected a little bit more. Now, Michigan, hard to know what you're going to get there, too. I mean, their quarterback's a freshman. Talking another 5-star. Their quarterback's a freshman, and he's looked okay in a couple games. But beating New Mexico by 17, not that impressive. Beating Central Michigan by a bunch of points, they're terrible. So it's hard to know what Michigan is either, So they struggled against Oklahoma. They were outgained by 131 yards in that game. And that's the only legit team they faced. Now, Nebraska's not Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma's elite. But it's a hard game to figure. This is one of those things where you're going to know a lot more about both of these teams after this game because it's really hard to figure out what these teams are given the schedule they've played so far. Both have played, Michigan played one really good team and got really out. They got basically blasted to lose yardage by 131 yards. And then Nebraska didn't beat a good but not great Cincinnati team by as much as I thought they should. My ratings have Michigan by 3, but early season home underdogs are generally pretty good bets. And Nebraska's in a pretty good situation here. And Matt Rule's teams are 68-41-1 against the spread in his college coaching career. And in year 3, it's better than that. So I would rather have Nebraska than Michigan, even though my ratings favor Michigan by 3, just because I think being a home dog, and it's a big game for them. And if they have the improvement I thought they'd have coming into the season, then it's more realistic that they get the upset. So I'd rather have Nebraska if they're getting points.
Got it. All right, let's go to the biggest game of the day. Illinois, Indiana. Who would have thought? Talk about 2 teams that I'm not sure they've played anybody. I don't know what to make. Like, I love Signetti. I think he's done a fantastic job. There, exactly. Google me. Fioma has always been, well, I shouldn't say always been good. He wasn't great at Arkansas, but I like him as a coach. I'm not sure Beamer would agree. If everybody remembers the bowl game they played last year, that was kind of odd. But be that as it may, it was at 4.5, which I thought sounded about right. Now it's 6.5, which I think sounds like, I don't know, quite a bit. But I don't know much about either of these 2 teams. Expect Illinois was supposed to be good. Indiana was good, like really good last year, and I like Signetti. But other than that, how do you see this one?
Yeah, I don't think Indiana is going to be as good as they were last year. I mean, I do like Mendoza. I mean, he did a pretty good 2 years ago at Cal. He was great. Last year, he had no protection at all and just was overwhelmed. I thought he did a decent job considering how, he didn't have much time to throw. And I think any quarterback in Signetti's offense is going to be good. We talked about this before, like he's had different quarterbacks almost every single season at James Madison and at Indiana. And prior to last year, they were all conference player of the year, except last year, Rourke was not conference player of the year, but he was damn good. He might have been third team Big Ten. I don't know, but he was really good. And Mendoza has just as good of a resume as Rourke did coming from Ohio University. So I think the offense can still be very good. And you look at their game against they beat Old Dominion, 13-point win to open the season. Old Dominion,
yeah,
pretty good. I mean, they just beat the crap out of Virginia Tech in Blacksburg.
Yep.
And you, as a subscriber, you may know that I like Old Dominion. I had them to win over 5.5 wins as a best bet on the win totals. So that wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be as far as, winning that game. I thought they still should have won by more than 13, but they've just crushed a couple teams since. And Signetti, his teams are always underrated. In his coaching career at the FBS level, he's 67.5% against the spread and 12-4 against the number at Indiana. So you better have a good reason to bet against Signetti. And I do not have a good reason because I think Illinois is overrated. And you look at the game they beat Duke, 42-13 or 19 or something like that.
Yeah.
But Duke outgained in Illinois in that game, and it was 5 turnovers that killed Duke. I don't think Illinois did much. Duke just beat themselves, and Duke had over 400 total yards in that game. I thought Illinois was overrated coming into the season. I haven't seen anything to make me think that's not the case. And I think Indiana's good. I favor Indiana by 9 in this game.
Oh.
And the situation's pretty good, I think, being at home and Signetti being such a good bet generally. I'd rather have Indiana for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, let's sneak in a NFL game before we run. Niners take on the Arizona Cardinals at home. I think now the line is up to 2.5, 3. Somewhere around there.
Went to 3 because Purdy
is it 3? Okay,
questionable. Yeah.
Yeah, so it kind of looks like Purdy's trending toward playing. At least that's what the line is telling you. Probably have to wait till game day to figure it out. So what do you think of this game? And I guess most importantly, what do you think of this game, with Mac Jones at quarterback or with Brock Purdy at quarterback?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, if Brock Purdy plays, then -3 is a good bet. I think he's probably not going to play. Mac Jones is pretty good. I mean, he averaged 6.4 yards a pass play without Kittle, and they lost their left guard and they lost their fullback. I mean, during the game. So I thought Mac Jones played pretty well. I think he might be the best of the backup quarterbacks that they've had in San Francisco. I mean, but Purdy obviously is better. Now you got Arizona's secondary, regardless of who the quarterback is. Arizona's secondary is a big question here. They have 3 starting corners. So the 2 outside corners and the nickelback are all injured. They're all likely to miss the game. Garrett Williams, Max Melton, and Will Johnson are all doubtful to out for this game. So I think whoever the quarterback is, I think Shanahan's going to scheme something up to take advantage of the backup cornerbacks that Arizona's going to trot out there. I also think McCaffrey's going to have a nice game out of the backfield. Obviously, he's a great pass catcher, and he's second in the league for running backs and expected points added per target this year. Arizona just does not defend running backs very well. They give up a 70% receiving success rate to opposing running backs, which is 3rd worst in the league. So I think McCaffrey's going to have a nice game out of the backfield. And then on the other side of the ball, the Cardinals, I thought they played well. I thought their defense has played pretty well so far, but the cornerback injuries are going to be an issue. I like Kyler Murray enough. I think he's a pretty good quarterback. Their most effective player so far has been their tight end, Trey McBride. It's 4th in the league among tight ends in yards per route run. But Fred Warner is great in pass defense. They've been leaning on the tight end a little bit, but Warner, I think, is going to shut that down. The Niners were 6th in the league last year against tight ends, and they're 4th so far this year against tight ends. And McBride last year only averaged 5.9 yards per target in the 2 games against the Niners. So they're going to have to find somebody else than McBride to move the offense. And overall, I think the line's about right. If Mac Jones plays, then I think 3 is the right line. If Purdy plays, then I think it's more like 7 or 6.5 probably. So if you have some intel on whether Purdy is going to play or not, then, if he's going to play, if you think he's going to play, then the Niners are a good bet. If not, it's a pass. I think the line's about right if it's Mac Jones. Got it.
You're a little higher on that.
I do lean under. If it's Mac Jones at quarterback, I come up with 43.5 points as the total. Right now it's 45.5, and 45 is a key number. So if it's going to be Mac Jones, then I'd lean under 45 or more.
How much did the key numbers change on totals when the 2-point conversion not only came into play because it's been around a while, but now when teams go for it on fourth down as much as they go, how has that affected totals?
It's changed a little bit, but not that much. Because if a team gets
Okay.
off schedule as far as their points, if they miss a conversion, then they come back and maybe make the next one, and then it gets right back on that key number. So it hasn't been that much of a change. I mean, I've studied it obviously, but it hasn't been much of a change. 45 is still key. So is 44, but 45 is key.
So there you go. If anybody out there knows that Purdy's playing, what Dr. Bob's telling you is call me.
Let me know,
and then we'll we'll definitely figure it out. Hey, Bob, as always, a pleasure. DrBobSports.com. Go on there, read some stuff, learn some stuff, and if you want to join up, you can find all the information on there as well. Have a great weekend, and we'll look forward to talking to you again next week, Bob.
All right, thanks, Tom. Have a good one.
All right, Bob. Appreciate it, man. That's Dr. Bob of DrBobSports.com.